The Indian economy has shown a slowing down of growth. Some of the reasons for this are crisis in the Eurozone, the slowdown in the US, and high oil prices. So growth is supposed to decline to about an expected 7% in 2011 and 12, and the earlier rates of growth were around almost 9%. This is a cause for concern. Inflation is around 6%, and this is partly caused by the massive oil price hike, which is really out of the control of the government. But India gets almost three-fourths of its oil through imports. At the same time, there's high government spending, as the budget shows, the budget document shows, on various subsidies like railways, diesel, kerosene, and development. There are many huge supply constraints in India due to infrastructure problems as well. And indeed, India has the largest fiscal deficit, about 8% of GDP, which includes both center and states, and that's in emerging countries in Asia. The ideal budget would have addressed all of these issues, but in fact it seems that political pressures seem to rule. Fiscal consolidation was the minimum expected in the budget, and this is a direct result of the high deficit that the government borrowing is going to imply. It means that it will crowd out private sector borrowing, which is essential to higher growth. It may also fuel inflation, as well as the fact that most of the revenues being supposed to come through excise taxes implies again that there will be more inflation. So as a result, domestic and foreign investors will be much more cautious investing in India due to the risks of inflation and high interest rates. All this is bad news for growth. If you look at the revenue side, switching to the GST, a unified and simplified tax system, and the DTC for direct taxes would have been a great step in the right direction given India's abysmal direct tax collection and the great dependence on regressive indirect taxes. In fact, India gets almost 70% of its tax revenues from indirect taxes compared to, for example, Singapore or Germany, which are around 50%, and the UK, which is less than 40% in 2007. So the budget in 2012 has increased service and excise taxes by 2% across the board, together with an increase in service tax net, and has promised a cap on subsidies of 2% of GDP. However, there were no concrete measures to reduce subsidies. For example, food, fertilizer, and fuel subsidies remain in place, but there is a hike in railway fares, which is good. The government's disinvestment plans continue. And on top of this, there are some direct initiatives provided to the private sector to sort of induce growth, and this includes a new scheme to give incentives to investors to buy equity in retail, as well as encouraging foreign investors by raising the limits on external commercial borrowing. There are also some steps to improve the efficiency of financial markets in India, simplifying the issue of IPOs and allowing foreign investors to access the Indian corporate bond market. In the crucial area of infrastructure, the budget promises investment to go up by rupees 50 lakh crore, and half of it will come from the private sector. An infrastructure debt fund has been set up, which will tap into foreign investing, as well as there's some introduction of tax-free bonds to finance infrastructure. And to encourage savings coming into productive investment, the customs duty on gold has been doubled, and this is likely to prevent the hoarding of money, which could be instead used for investing in the private sector. But on the whole, the high cost of borrowing and the raising of excise duties are bad for business. Uncertainty in the tax climate discourages investment, both domestic and foreign. However, we have to understand the government is constrained because of the elections that are looming and the difficulties of reaching consensus in a coalition government. It is really unfortunate for India that politics is such a constraint for a country poised for development. But those are the costs of democracy, and we must live with them.